The U.S. Army handed Margaret Calloway a folded flag and told her son was dead. She accepted it, thanked them, and watched their car disappear around the corner. Then she went inside and made 2 cups of coffee. She did that every single morning for the next 3 years. Because Margaret Calloway never believed a word they told her. If you love your mom and dad, hit that subscribe button right now. This one is for them. Margaret raised Daniel alone in Clarksville, Tennessee after his father walked out when the boy was 7. She worked 2 jobs, packed his lunch every morning with a handwritten note tucked underneath, and built a life out of pure stubbornness and love. Daniel grew up watching his mother carry things without complaining, and it made him the kind of man who moved through the world looking for things to fix and people to help. He enlisted at 22, deferred his engineering scholarship, and told his mother the country needed people willing to go. She turned away from him at the kitchen counter for a long moment when he said that. When she turned back she was smiling. It cost her everything to hold that smile steady, and they both knew it. He deployed 3 times. The first 2 he came home thinner but intact, bringing her small gifts she kept on the kitchen windowsill where the morning light hit them every day. After his second return they sat on the porch until midnight talking about things they had never found time to say before. He told her that in his hardest moments overseas he would close his eyes and walk himself through her house room by room, touching every detail in his memory, because it was the most solid place he knew. She told him he was the best thing she had ever done. They said goodnight at the stairs. Neither said goodbye. He deployed the 3rd time 11 months later. The ambush happened in a narrow mountain pass in eastern Afghanistan. Fast, fierce, and brutal. Daniel was separated from his unit, hit in the shoulder and leg, and went down behind a boulder. His unit fought their way out. The drone footage reviewed afterward was ambiguous. The official conclusion, processed within 72 hours, declared Sergeant Daniel Calloway killed in action. 2 soldiers and a chaplain drove to Clarksville. What the Army did not know was that Daniel had been captured. A militant cell operating in that remote mountain range had found him wounded and taken him alive, believing an American soldier had intelligence value. They chained him by the ankle in a cave and fed him once a day. Daniel spent the first month certain rescue was coming. When it did not, he reorganized. He kept his mind sharp with engineering calculations and memorized rosters and periodic tables. Every night without exception he walked himself through his mother's house in complete detail, room by room, preserving every inch of it. As long as he could do that perfectly he knew he was still intact. 14 months in he attempted an escape. He almost made it. The punishment was severe and the chain that replaced the first one was heavier. He lay on the cave floor afterward and stared at the ceiling and allowed himself exactly 4 minutes of despair. Then he decided to start again differently. He started watching his captors. Studying habits, mapping fears, learning the rotation. He noticed one guard, a boy of about 17, who paused outside his section longer than necessary. Not with aggression. Just listening. Daniel started talking during those pauses. About Tennessee, about his mother's cooking, about baseball and open highways and autumn hills that turn every color at once. He had no idea if the boy understood anything. He talked for months anyway. In his 27th month the boy slipped a folded piece of paper beside his water bowl. 3 words in careful uncertain English. People know here. Daniel read those 3 words until the paper fell apart. 14 days later a special operations team moved through the pass at 3 in the morning. Intelligence had traveled through a chain that started with that boy and a local shepherd and worked its way through channels that no official record will ever fully capture. The team found Daniel in the cave, chained, awake, with his back against the wall of tally marks. The first soldier through said Calloway. Daniel said took you long enough. He was flown to a medical facility in Germany. He healed. He was debriefed. He asked about his mother on day 1 and was told the notification process required proper channels. He asked every day after that. By week 4 he understood that proper channels meant nothing was actually moving. By week 6 he signed his discharge papers against medical advice, borrowed money from a fellow soldier, and got on a commercial flight home. Here is the twist that is harder to explain than the captivity itself. Margaret was never contacted. Not in 6 weeks. A reintegration officer went on medical leave. An interagency classification dispute stalled the communication chain. No one made a deliberate decision to leave her uninformed. It simply happened in the space where no one took responsibility. For 42 days after her son was rescued, Margaret Calloway continued making 2 cups of coffee every morning and talking to him across an empty chair. Daniel flew into Nashville in the middle of a Tennessee thunderstorm. He took a taxi to Clarksville in civilian clothes, a gray sweatshirt and dark jeans, with a small duffel bag and nothing else. When the taxi turned onto his mother's street he saw the porch light from half a block away, burning steady and warm against the storm like it had never once considered going off. He walked up the path soaking wet and stood at the door and knocked. 2 quick, 1 slow. The way he had knocked his entire life. Margaret was in the armchair with the television on low, unable to sleep because of the storm. When the knock came she assumed it was her elderly neighbor frightened by the thunder. She crossed the room and unlocked the door and opened it without looking first. The flag slid off the side table and hit the floor before she said a word. She was 6 feet away. She had not touched it. It simply fell. Daniel was standing under the porch light completely soaked, thinner, older in the eyes, with a scar above his left brow that had not been there before. His bag had dropped from his shoulder the moment the door opened. He was shaking and it was not from the cold. Margaret raised both hands and placed them on either side of his face the way she had done since he was small. Her fingers were trembling. 3 years of held-together composure came apart quietly, the way things do when they have been wound too tight for too long. She said, "I knew you were coming home. I told you every morning. I told you." They stood in that open doorway with the storm at his back and the warm house behind her and the porch light burning above them, and neither moved for a long time. The flag lay on the floor where it had fallen. No one picked it up that night. It could wait. It had already done its damage and been proven wrong. The Army issued a formal apology weeks later. There were congressional inquiries and carefully worded statements. Daniel shook a general's hand and said the appropriate things and then drove home and sat on the porch with his mother and never spoke about any of it again. The next morning Margaret got up at 6:15 and made 2 cups of coffee. Daniel came downstairs and sat across from her without being asked. The morning light came through the yellow curtains. The bracelet and the ceramic tile sat on the windowsill where she had always kept them. Daniel looked at them for a long time. Then he looked at her and said, "You kept them." Margaret looked at her son over her coffee cup and said, "I kept everything." The Army declared him dead. His mother never did. And on a rainy night in November, the universe sided with the mother. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and show some love to the people who never turned off the porch light for you. And drop a comment below right now. Which part of the country are you watching from tonight? We want to hear from you.